Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the element of shape. So, without further ado, let's get started and review our overarching learning goals for today. Okay, so first of all, we need to make sure that we are able to know the different types of shapes that are out there and their qualities. As we are exploring through this series, the idea that different elements, line or shape, for example, can help us to communicate specific emotions or concepts because of the associations that we make. Okay, we are going to go through an exercise that is going to help us categorize shapes, and then this is to be transferred to your final works, your final artworks and your designs as you start thinking about the types of shapes that you are using and why you are using them. Okay, so let's dive in. So first of all, I'm going to be putting a couple of different images up onto our screen, okay? And I'm going to place one here, and I am going to also place one here. Okay, these are two different types of shapes. Okay? They have two different names. Our goal is to start thinking about which shape these what the category is, how these shapes are connected to each other, and how they are also simultaneously distinct. Okay, so I'm going to bring another image in, okay? And as I do so, we're going to take a look at this particular picture. It looks like it's a window, and I need you to think for a second as to whether or not this particular shape has more visually in common with the banana, or does this have more consistency with the baseball here? Okay, so I'm going to ask you that you take a moment. I want you to think about it, okay, and then I'm going to place this on one of the two sides. All right, so in fact, this particular object belongs over here. Okay, and hopefully you might be starting to think about how these ones are connected. So if I grab another shape, let's bring this one here in. I'm trying to think through here. Okay, so if I bring this one in, again, when I look at this shape, does this shape have more similarities with the banana, or does it have more similarities and inconsistencies with these two shapes over here? Okay? Again, think about it for a second. Okay? If you're thinking that this actually belongs over on this side, I would say that you are actually quite correct. There's a lot that's kind of common between these. So if I try another shape, okay, again, where does this one belong? Does it belong over here on the left? Does it belong over here on the right? Okay. If you thought that it has more visually in common, the characteristics of this shape are more in line with that of the banana, right? I think you are correct. Okay. So I have an illustration of a leaf. Okay. Does it belong in either of these columns, or does it belong somewhere entirely separate? Are these the only two categories of shapes that we necessarily have to have? Okay. So as you think about it, right, there is something that's in common with the leaf and these pieces, these other illustrations over here. Okay. I'm going to throw another one up on the screen. Okay. And again, does this belong in either of the two categories, or does it exist in a category on its own? Okay, so this one is kind of unique, right? It's not like these shapes over here, and it's not like these shapes over here. It is distinct. I want you to try and come up with a hypothesis or a test. And how would you label these shapes on this side versus these shapes on this side? And again, what kind of makes this one in particular kind of unique? So if you were to give me a label for this column, and this column, what would those three labels potentially be? All right, we're going to do another couple of tests, and I have a cookie this time. Which of the three categories might this belong to? Does it belong over here? Does it belong in the middle? Or does it belong over on the right-hand side? Or sorry, the left-hand side. Okay. I'm going to place this shape over in this column here. Okay. And now I'm going to grab the last shape. And I'm going to ask you once again, does it belong over in this column, in the middle column, or does it belong over here on the left? Okay. If you said that it kind of belongs here in the middle, right, I would tend to agree with you as well. Okay, so what we have are three different groupings of shapes. And each of these groupings has a unique name. Okay, so the first group over on the left-hand side, we are going to refer to these as our organic shapes. The shapes over on the left, these are actually this is actually one big group that is subdivided into two parts. Okay, so we have our geometric shapes, okay, over on this side, and we have our organic shapes over here. And we can further divide this up by what we refer to as our irregular, and we also have our regular shapes. Okay. And we're going to go in and we're going to start taking a look at the definitions of these three terms as we move forward. Okay, so geometric shapes. Right? So what makes a geometric shape unique is that they are precise and uniform. Right? When we look at these shapes, we consider them to be made by human beings, and that means that we as human beings have constructed the shape, or we have kind of articulated the shape, and we have essentially named it. Now, the problem is that all of the shapes that human beings can make don't necessarily always have a name that can precisely describe it. Okay, so for example, our regular shapes include the circle. In this case, we have an isosceles triangle, and we have a trapezoid, right? There are specific names and there are explicit conventions on how those shapes are constructed. Okay, but we are also capable of creating very irregular geometric shapes, right? That, this does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, and it's technically a hexagon, but it doesn't really fit with our full understanding of what a hexagon would normally look like, right? So we have a hexagon here and a hexagon here, but this is the one that we would consider to be a regular shape, right? Likewise, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides, and right, we could create a regular 7-sided shape, okay? But this one, it doesn't sort of fit that normal convention. So we have these irregular geometric shapes as well. The last category of shapes that we have are these ideas of organic shapes, and these are the ones that are often found in nature. They are kind of defined by curving, flowing lines. There's a sense of elegance to them. They're not nearly as, I'm going to say, as rigid as a geometric shape, and that's what kind of makes them unique. I often could think about the organic shape as being almost amoeba-like, which is kind of like this little sketch over here, right? Amoebas are those little tiny creatures we learn about in science class that kind of flow all over the place, and their cell walls are flexible, and they just kind of move around and explore their environment, and they don't have that sense of boundary that a geometric shape does. So as you're going through your creative process and you're thinking about, perhaps a pattern that you are wanting to create, right? We make those patterns with shapes. So would you want to be creating it with a geometric shape in order to communicate a sense of structure and organization? Or would you want to create your pattern with something that is a little bit more organic in order to create an emotion of of freedom and flexibility? Okay. So we have two types of shapes, geometric and organic, and within our geometric shapes, we have regular and irregular. I hope this helps, and make sure that you check out the website for additional information and other visual exemplars. All right, best of luck, and look forward to seeing you guys later. Take care. Bye.